This is the main street of Berlin. This venue is for the annual Christopher Street Day. It's Europe's biggest LGBT parade. The 40th anniversary of the event was celebrated in the summer of 2019. Almost 1 million people across Germany attended the CSD and freely expressed their sexual orientation. Bernd Gaiser was one of the founders of the parade. He and his friends called on gay people to march together just 40 years ago.
On our first parade, we marched to the nearby lake and had a picnic. Then it started to rain, so we had to run for cover. 2 years ago, it rained again, reminding us of that first parade. We all got very excited. We took our clothes off and danced in the rain. If I hadn't started this parade, I'm sure I would not have become the person I am today. I would have been living a very different life in society, and I'm glad that society has changed as well.
Gaiser was born in a rural part of South Germany in 1945. He shares with us his thoughts about his new project. In 2012, Gaiser set up Europe's first multi-generation housing project for LGBT people. It includes universal design and full-time care services with a total of 24 apartments. A majority of the residents are elderly gay men, but there are other LGBT people of all ages.
Hello.
Welcome to my wonderful duplex apartment. It's full of books because I love them. I turned the staircase into a small gallery displaying my favorite works of art.
Gaiser has been living here in the Pioneer LGBT residential complex for 8 years. The monthly rent for this apartment is 658 euros, including management fees and utilities. It's one of the most popular residential sites in Berlin, with 400 people on the waiting list.
A typical family is likely to have some children. The couple can expect their children to look after them when they get older, but most of us LGBT people are living alone or just with a partner. I started feeling rather anxious about who would take care of us when we get older. I felt I wanted to totally organize my life, including thinking about how I would end my days, and that is how I came up with the idea for this housing project where residents can live together with full-time care available. By chance, I found this building in Berlin that had been empty for 5 years. The price was 3 million euros. Then I heard about a foundation that uses money raised from lottery sales for supporting cultural and social projects, so I decided to present a pitch to it. I emphasized 3 points. Both men and women would be accepted as residents. It would be for elderly gay people as well as for younger people. And there would be areas where non-residents could visit, like a cafe and a garden. And gay counseling sessions would also be held. And they granted me more than 80% of the money I needed.
Gaiser introduced us to one of his friends, an artist who is also living in the complex.
This is a very comfortable apartment. It's a perfect place for my work. Here, I don't have to explain why I'm single and why I don't have grandchildren. How about you? Are you married? Don't people ask you these things? It was impossible to have this kind of housing 50 years ago.
Right. That's because society's view on what families should be like has changed.
Now 75, Gaiser says he never got to come out properly to his family.
My mother was a strict Catholic, so it was difficult for her to understand me. She wouldn't listen to anything regarding my sexuality, so I couldn't come out. My sister eventually figured it out. When she asked me about my life in Berlin, my mother would go to the kitchen.
His mother had a strong reason for being reluctant to accept his sexual orientation. From 1871 to 1994, the German Penal Code prohibited sex between men. When the Nazis rose to power, the prohibition was expanded to punish a broad range of male behavior.
In 1935, paragraph 175 was revised, and the possible length of imprisonment was extended from 3 months to 10 years. And once they were released from prison, they were still not free. They were sent to concentration camps, and many died there. Gay men were treated just like Jews, gypsies, and the handicapped.
The Penal Code had a devastating impact on German society and led to widespread arrests and imprisonments. Gaiser lost one of his friends from the Marines due to paragraph 175.
At that time, I was working as a postal clerk in the Marines, engaged in sorting out the mail. One day, I happened to see letters from the prosecutor's office addressed to the local governments back home of 2 of my colleagues. I sensed that procedures were underway to send them to prison as soon as they were discharged from the Marines. I discussed whether we should get rid of the letters with my friend at the office, but in the end we couldn't do anything. I still regret doing nothing because one of those colleagues later committed suicide in his parents' attic. He shot himself with his father's pistol.
Gaiser moved to Berlin after serving in the Marines. There, he still faced discrimination for being gay.
Around that time, men would come up to me in the street and say, "Hitler should have sent you homosexuals to the gas chamber." Back then, in the Nazi era, it was mandatory for every one of us gay men to wear this pink triangle. I wear it today to represent the positive message that there's no problem with being gay and we should all be proud of it. So, in 1979, I took to the streets with around 500 gays and lesbians. Before that very first Christopher Street Day parade, there had been a few parades held by gay members of society, but I would say that they were much more like conventional labor demonstrations. They just marched along the streets together, carrying political slogans and waving banners. With CSD, I wanted to express how proud we were to be gay. I had always felt the need for that to be celebrated in public. We gay men and lesbians could all freely dance together, hand in hand, without anybody accusing us for the way we were. We wanted to feel we'd finally obtained freedom. There's a reason why homosexuality has long been unacceptable and viewed as anathema by society. It's because we don't fit in with society's aims. What I mean is, we don't meet the basic purpose of humans. Men and women should produce offspring, so there's a sense of discrimination against any people who don't procreate, and therefore should be eliminated.
Gaiser made sure that a library was included in the housing project plans. He wanted a free space where residents and non-residents could gather. He believes it's important for everyone to communicate beyond just members of their own generation or family.
I've learned so much from Mr. Gaiser's life. Because of what he and his friends have done, I'm able to live a better life as a gay man. Not everything about my life is good, of course, but at least I don't have to deal with the problems that they did, and I'm really grateful. I don't have to face discrimination, and I can come out and just be myself.
Gaiser has continued to work as an activist for the gay and lesbian community since organizing the CSD. One of the activities he's launched is a service to visit those living an isolated life. He also supports elderly gay men becoming self-reliant.
We have one resident who used to attend these meetings but has now stopped coming. He has even cut himself off from all contact with others. Is there some way we can help him? From my experience, once elderly gay men isolate themselves, they have difficulty maintaining social contacts and keep distancing themselves. They tend to build a wall around themselves. Today, I want to discuss this issue.
About isolation?
Yes, about isolated elderly gay men.
But he insists on not wanting anybody to contact him.
Yes, that's the problem.
If anybody's willing to contact him, please give it a try. Maybe he'll be glad to hear from us.
How about someone writing him a letter?
During my visits to other gay men, I've discovered that they are often living alone and are very much isolated. And those living in homes for the elderly are not opening up about their sexuality. It was my awareness of these situations that helped me come up with the idea of starting this housing project.
Gaiser's mission has been to create residences where single, elderly LGBT people can live comfortably and communicate with others. He's now taking his scheme to the next level.
For my next multi-generation housing project, I'm planning to include a nursery on the ground floor. Why is that? Well, it will encourage children living in the neighborhood to come and visit as well. It's very important to me to create a place where the residents and people from the local community can meet and communicate. It may be a bit different from a typical family, but I believe these buildings also function as a place for a family. Knowing who lives in the same apartment makes residents feel safe and helps them to live comfortably. That's something they never experienced in the places where they previously lived. In simple words, this is my motto. I've cherished these words since I was young. Make your gayness public. If you can be courageous and open up about yourself, or if you can take a step to offer a helping hand to someone else, then I am quite sure you will benefit from your actions. This is something that I have experienced all through my life.